All right.
What's up, y'all? This is Cgt Podcast, episode 15. I think I got to keep up with this shit, bro. But either way, I'm excited as fuck right now because we got my boy Amen in this bitch. And I'm gonna just introduce him by saying, like, you feel me? I could say he's one of my fucking, what they call that shit, associates of information, a friend of fucking knowledge. Everything you could possibly say that
Yeah,
has to
for
do with
that.
information, bro. That's why we fucking here today. So today, this episode is going to be centered around like awareness, consciousness, subconsciousness, and unconsciousness. Simply because like we had a conversation the other day through Insta, like via the Instagram chat shit, and it just like pretty much led to this episode where I feel like a lot of people can learn from like two people who actually like study awareness and shit, not just from a point of view of like pretty much like I don't even know how to say fairy tale type shit, but more so like even like from a scientific point of view. So this is gonna be interesting as fuck, bro. So with that being
Most
said, I mean,
definitely.
if you want to goddamn go ahead and say what you want to say, bro, that would be good.
I mean, you know, you just first start like breaking down like what these things are. I usually would go with like the definitions first and
Mm-hmm.
like actually break down the word and try to figure out what that means and then go on to actually give it my own iteration of it or whatever. But just straight off the
Hold on, it's freezing up right quick. I don't know why it's freezing up like that. Damn.
mm,
Okay, I can see you. I can see and you hear you now, bro. You good?
okay,
But yeah, shit.
let
The
me make
last
sure
thing I
I'm
heard
good.
was you saying you was talking about like the definitions and like how that like that's where you like to start off at.
Yeah, I was saying like usually I would start off with the definitions and trying to break it down. But just
Mm-hmm.
from my own words, it's just saying that, consciousness is awareness or your perception of reality, of
Mm-hmm.
your shared reality and your personal reality. So your shared reality would be things that we all have in common. Your shared reality would be you walking down the street with your friends or your family members, so on and so forth. That's a shared reality. Y'all both are doing that. But then the personal reality is, maybe me seeing the sky as blue and you seeing it as a hue of green or
Mm-hmm.
something like that. That's
Yeah.
your personal reality in which you perceive, basically. So then you go into the subconscious mind, and this is something that's past just the five senses.
Mm-hmm.
Is past just what you're immediately aware of. It's something like you remembering a phone number or remembering what you had for breakfast. You're not thinking about it right then in that moment. Like that's not you could be at work doing something. It's not thinking of it. You're not thinking of it like right then and there, but it's something that you can bring to the forefront of your mind.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then you have the unconscious. See, yesterday when we had this conversation, I was kind of thinking of subconscious and unconscious as them being both synonymous and interchangeable, but they're actually not. And usually when I'm doing my research and things like that, I'll just, like some time ago, whenever I started just actually thinking about subconscious and the conscious mind, it was more so as, you have the conscious mind, which is above water, and the subconscious, which is below water. Um, and, but the unconscious mind,
Mm-hmm.
that's where it becomes a little tricky because then you start talking about something that is not conscious at all. It's not, it's subconscious, but it's not the subconscious. It's
Yeah.
not like 5 feet underwater. It's like the abyss. It's the lowest part of your being and everyone's being. It's like the collective conscious or the collective unconscious, which is actually something else going into all of that. But so the unconscious mind would be a collection of all your memories and things like that that were blocked by you. Say you had a terrible childhood and you remember getting beat, but you don't remember other things that happened because you blocked it off. Those are the things that are underneath. And because of what happened to you in the past, that in the future now, you may have a specific type of pattern or attitude that you do. And that's because, and you probably try to wonder why that is, but it's because of the unconscious mind.
Mm.
It's because that deep in the recesses of your mind, that you have this this memory that has happened, this thing, this event that has happened to you, and it's causing you to act out in a way that you can't figure out. You may think back to that memory, which is using your subconscious mind to figure out, well, hey, you know, uh, I got beat down when I was little or something like that, but not actually knowing the effects and the things that you said to yourself during that time that make you think otherwise and act differently towards, future events that may happen.
Yeah.
Because, like, it's this quote that I like. It was saying that um, the past doesn't repeat itself, but it definitely rhymes, which means that there you won't have the same situation happen to you, but there will be similar things, with the same variables, different variables that seem similar to it, but it's not the actual same event happening to you over and over again. But those type of things cause you to act out in a certain way. Um, but I had pulled off some things from a couple of my books that I wanted to read too.
Mhm.
They were talking about some parts of consciousness, subconscious. Um, the funny thing is too that in these occult books you won't hear too much about the unconscious mind.
Mhm.
You'll hear it referred to as the subconscious. It's the conscious and the subconscious mind that they talk about. And you could definitely say that the subconscious mind is, I mean, the unconscious mind is the bigger open part of the subconscious. Um, so like a river leading out into the ocean, basically.
Mm.
So
That's where I began. See, that's where. So,
yeah,
okay. Before we go into the next part, I'm gonna go ahead and say, say pretty much like that's where I have like I guess it will be a inner conflict because it's really just me personally. I see nobody else really gives a fuck. So I just be like trying to figure it out in my own mind. Like pretty much like the way that we as human beings try to like it's a contradiction. I know we talked about that in the same, but it's basically a contradiction because it's like it's a simple contradiction, but it makes me ponder. So it's just the fact that the consciousness itself, like you said, that was a beautiful analogy used with the river and it leads into the ocean. And that's pretty much like as we as humans, we like to find we it's like we're in a search for what connects like consciousness to unconsciousness and like how does all this shit relate? Why is it all in this one spot at the same time
yeah,
type? And it's just like
hmm
that's where like pretty much when people start like okay, personally over the last couple of years I've been in love with I've been in love with subconscious information myself too. And like recently
yeah,
I just like okay, for example, like this year I've learned so much like dealing with the body and all that autonomy and shit like that. It's made me go back and look at information that I've learned over the last couple of years, and it makes me like basically like try to refine it so I can actually like I guess I could say use it better. But with that being said, it made me
mm,
it made it kind of harder for me to learn the new shit because like that it's a thing like and when people use subconscious shit, they always make it relative to unconsciousness. But I don't think basically I think subconscious like from what I've studied, basically, it seems like subconsciousness is synonymous with consciousness, but unconsciousness has like I don't like it's pretty much like we don't know basically. Like that's what you were like, it's like something that
yeah, exactly.
so if we take away that
Because it like,
if we take away that aspect
mm,
of like unconsciousness and try to like make it synonymous with subconsciousness, it's like we're taking the aspect of the unknown away because we're so obsessed with trying to figure it out. Like, but that's where I mean that's just like some that's just like some collective consciousness type shit, really.
Yeah, okay. See, and that's the thing about it is, so the subconscious is what I had looked up was also called wholly conscious, which means basically half of the whole, or half conscious, like if you were, half asleep, but you're awake at the same time. You're having dreams, you're imagining things, but you're also aware of what's going on around you.
Yeah.
But then when you go to the unconscious, it's just completely unknown. You're asleep. You don't know that you don't know the exact time that you fell asleep when you sleep. You just you just sleep. That's just it. And in that time, you don't if you don't dream, you don't know the what's going on around you. So you're definitely not aware of what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when the unconscious happens, but you can't observe that. So then that's why you get to the question of people trying to figure out what it is because it can't be observed. So if you can, by some means, some way, try to consciously, or be aware of the unconscious while you're conscious, then it becomes a whole nother thing. But if you understand that the unconscious is, information from every single place, or any, it's just now, basically. That's the best way I can put it, is now. It's just now. The
Yeah.
word now. And anything that can be tied to it, you know. So bringing, having uh present tense statements can bring about a certain change from the unconscious, or that collective information, and then bring it to your subconscious, your memory, because you don't ever learn anything new. It's all remembering, since it's already been done.
Okay.
um, and then forward from that into the conscious mind, from you being just aware of what you just did, from that statement you just made, and figuring it all out. But yeah, like I agree with you. It is definitely a tricky thing, because like I had done some research, and before that I'm thinking to myself like, well, it's just conscious and the subconscious, think about unconscious. I'm like, okay, well, you just talking about going to sleep, or just like laying down, you somebody knocked you out or something like that, you
Yeah.
know and then looking at it again, it's like, okay, this is just totally unknown,
Yeah.
and people just don't talk about it. They don't.
And that's like that's the like it's certain images in my head because when I get too deep into thought, I don't even use word. I only try to compare images. And one of the images that I try to compare
Yeah,
is like pretty much like how you were saying, like a person in sleep is a person in a coma is an example of somebody who's kind of unconscious in a way. But also like
mm,
a mountain, for example. A mountain is like some people would say a mountain is alive. You get what I'm saying? But obviously, the mountain
yeah,
isn't conscious of its own progress or whatever we could perceive to be whatever we do.
nah,
So that's why I've always like basically the last image that topped it off pretty much with the subconscious shit with which made me want to pretty much like try to separate unconsciousness from subconsciousness was basically the death aspect of it pretty much like so, like when people start talking about death,
mm-hmm.
especially in the cult shit, they always pretty much like it's like they bombard you with a whole
Oh,
bunch of
we,
subconscious shit. Like it's like, oh yeah, like all this shit is relatable to death.
yeah,
They got studies about DMT out right now, which is like the drug they say. I mean
yeah,
the biochemical they say that's responsible for life and death type shit. But at the end of the day, the reason I'm saying that is
right,
because like in order for us to respect what death is, like I came to this point where I'm still open to it, but it's like I feel like in order for us as humans who are alive to actually respect what death is, that's what the idea of like the unconscious really is. It's like basically basically like you're in a dark ass room and then you just open the door to like a room full of light type shit. You get what I'm saying? It's like basically it's like you don't like both
mm,
sides of that is fucking unknown to the other side type shit. And it will never be
yeah,
known by you in your present form. So that's why I was like, that's why I always like basically like that's why I had this battle with subconscious shit. Cause it's like it just always seemed like it's pretty much like the answer to like the death question. And I don't know if it is basically. But I want to hear what you got to say about that.
wait, so what do you mean, exactly, when you're saying the subconscious and death?
So a lot of people pretty much a lot of people make the subconscious Like if you master your subconscious, get in touch with your subconscious, then it's kind of like you being in touch with pretty much like like what happens after death type shit. Like that's a prominent thing in our
Okay, I know what you mean.
intellectual community type shit. Basically, it's like the more in tune you
Yeah.
get, the more in tune you get with your subconscious and intuition, is kind of like you're in tune with another side type shit. And I don't know if that's true. I just feel like basically that is possible. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like at the
Yeah.
other time there's a possibility that that's another human flaw type thing. That's a possibility. You get what I'm saying? Like of us wanting to figure out shit, and then basically us wanting to figure out shit so bad that we'll make up shit. Like as an example, to like it's basically like a scientific theory type shit,
Yeah, I get you.
like a hypothesis.
Yeah.
But what? Yeah, bro. Like I really want to know what you got there, bro. You said you were gonna read something out.
Yeah. So before I start reading into that, definitely just thinking about what you were saying about death in the subconscious mind. Like if you get to know yourself to a point where you've mastered your subconscious mind, it's like I get it because that's the whole reason why most or some of us get into this whole thing is to get to know yourself or really figure yourself out, self realization and things like that. Analyze yourself and figure out, what's going to grow and what's going to die off, or what needs to die off, and which you can, start to grow basically.
Yeah.
And it's like that connection with death is like you basically getting yourself prepared to die, and
Mm,
versus dying, uh just getting shot or being unprepared to die. Like you've never done any of the work, so you die and you think you're going off to some magical place, or you lived a shitty life, so you feel like you're going to some terrifying, place where you be terrorized, day and night. There is no day and night. It's hot as hell. You know, you got all these different places that you can go, purgatory and things like that, or the one that we also have known to come and love is, regeneration,
mm,
coming back to do something over and over and over and over until you figure out what the hell it is or what the hell you did wrong.
yeah.
So then that's where it comes into play with this whole subconscious mind and past lives and trying to figure out what you did or what you're doing or things like that. It's like, in your past lives, you probably did the information. So you come in and, at a certain age, you start, you know, feeling or doing something different or whatever. And then you start following that feeling or that path down this long ass path. And then, you get to a point where you just like this stuff seems kind of familiar to me. Or I can, grasp it really fast because like it's something that, you know, it's just something that you pick up on. You're just like, okay, well, I got this. Now you start growing and going a lot further than you feel like you've ever gone. You may hit some bumps. You may, you know, it just differs for many people and what they really find in it. And in all of that whole process of information and finding out these things is you really get to come to a point where you really get to understand yourself better because of the things that you've gone through during those times of transformation, if you will.
Yeah.
Um, and like during those times of transformation, like I was saying, like things either die off or you start growing, and because you've gotten to a point where you understand yourself a lot better, you feel like um you're let me see. Well, like you feel like you like you killed off the old you, and you've become something better. People call it the higher self and
Mm,
things like that, or your higher self exists in your subconscious mind, and things like that, or your higher thought form, whatever you want to call it. These things that are a combination of who you are. So that's where I feel like you start digging into the unconscious mind, pulling things out through the, through the subconscious, and you start to really try and figure out, what this thought form is going to become. What is it supposed to be shaped into? And through these different lifetimes, you get different pieces of that to build it all together. And through these different archons, you do this and you do that, and you learn these lessons and tear these things apart, just so you can this whole transmutation, this whole transforming different mental states, just so that you can die and go off to some other place. I can keep going on for and on for with this whole thing because there's so much behind it.
Mm-hmm.
But that just goes to show how, like, all these different parts play a big, all these pieces play a big part in your life, uh, from just you being aware to you're remembering things, to you pulling out things from you know all every bit of eternity, or now, which is actually a better word for now, is eternity.
Mm-hmm.
um but to read some of the things that I had wrote down.
Excuse me.
There is no single power in the universe, and consequently in human beings, that does not display its opposite of normal consciousness. Now that could be backed up by also saying that, when you talk about, and because I study hermetics, that was the first thing I got into, was the hermetic science. So
Mm-hmm.
it taught you about the different laws and things like that of the universe, and how things are mentally put together. That everything is mental, but how it's put together, how it exists and plays a part in your life. So a part of that was the dang the the uh the great paradox,
Mm-hmm.
or the divine paradox, I mean. And that goes into things saying that everything is half true. All things that are true can be reconciled later on, and you go back and change those things. So everything is half true and half false. Everything has its pair of opposites. Everything differs in degrees of many different things. So you can go on and on and on and on. Correspondences and things like that, they're all a part of that. So when you talk about having you know, that everything is opposite, I mean, everything has its opposites, you would know that the awareness of the awareness, or the consciousness, the beta brainwave, the waking state, um, would have its opposite. It's like, it seems as though, like, when you talk about the straight up awareness or consciousness, that it doesn't have a greater or broader part um of that waking state, if you get what I'm saying. Like, you have you got consciousness, then it goes more inward, but nothing goes further outward. You see what I'm saying? It doesn't go further outward. But you can look at it as, because you're going further inward, that it helps you to look further outward, you know, into whatever, you know, or however you would look at that. But everything it goes, as above, so below. You've heard it before, or the as within, so without, however it goes. And this goes, from you looking at the gross form of light, which is this physical material reality, which is only going to go but so far. Um, and even in science, you go down to the smallest particle, and then that's it. Then you start going into this. You go start going to a point where you have to go inward now. But to look outward is to be looking inward in the first place, because everything is a reflection of the inside. Because everything is just going back and forth between each other. It's this whole big game of attraction and repulsion, you know. Um, and so I wrote something else. It was saying that the subconscious is in the sphere of consciousness, where passion, shortcomings, weaknesses, the driving force behind everything we do. We do not want everything uh, we have not wished for. So a part of the subconscious mind is being able to do things that the conscious mind just can't do. But you embody the conscious mind. You embody the awareness. So that's just it right there in front of you. And then behind it is the subconscious where you start thinking of things and talk about how you may, like you say, I want to quit smoking. Yet the adversary or the opposite of your conscious mind is going to play some sort of trick on you because of something that you've done in the past, something that has happened in the past that made you inconsistent, and now it's only going to serve to make you more inconsistent rather than to make you consistent.
Yes.
So instead of saying I want to stop smoking is, you know, I'm not a smoker. That's in that's just present right there. I'm not a smoker. I don't smoke.
So,
And
okay.
then that starts to make it more yeah.
Oh no, I don't want to cut you off. What you about to say, bro?
All I was going to say is was that's what makes it more consistent with the conscious mind and actually getting what you want from the subconscious,
Yeah.
and playing with the same game that the unconscious is playing with you. But yeah, go ahead. What you going to say?
So how do you? Okay, so like, how do you feel about um, like for example, like I agree with everything you just fucking said, bro. Like that's why it's so
Yeah.
fascinating to me, like because of the fact that I also how can I start this off? So pretty much I'll start off like this, like from the point of view like of a human being, we see it like, oh yeah, like for example, you just gave an example like I want to stop smoking, and then you said pretty much like you said instead of saying I want to stop smoking, you had to say I don't smoke. Like from the point of view of like what it like, so the definition that I would prefer as unconscious is like pretty much what a human awareness could never be able to touch at all, like type shit. Even if you try
Yeah.
infinitely.
Mm.
So for example, uh, uh like for example, like telescopes and shit like that. We can get on telescopes and see galaxies, quote unquote galaxies from billions of miles quote unquote away type shit. So with that idea itself, you would still be able to perceive a galaxy, you get what I'm saying? So a galaxy is not something unconscious. That's something consciously happening. You get what I'm saying? So basically, from a point of view of somebody who said, like a point of view of a being like there are beings out there that don't use the word I type shit. Like so from a point of view of a being that doesn't use the word I, like would you say that they are unconscious themselves? Or would you say they just like cuz okay, let me say this too, like
I would say that there is more so of yeah.
I was going to say too, like there's like because scientifically, that was another thing I had said on Instagram, pretty much like the intuition versus instinct thing, because like a lot of people study intuition as like they'll study intuition as something like mystical and spiritual, but they don't see instinct as the same thing type shit. So the same way a snake can literally be laying down fucking halfway sleep and then like a fucking mouse could be running 50 miles per hour and the snake can catch that motherfucker without even blinking or whatever in his body just told him to do it, he just ate it. So it's like that's instinct, but we don't see that as basically as spiritual as intuition. So that's why I was like asking the question about the animal, because like they say animals are instinctual, but we would say as humans that we're intuitional. You get what I'm saying? So I was wondering, like, is that like one of
Mm.
the things where it's like you could see that as like instinctual as synonymous with like unconscious in a way.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. And I remember reading that somewhere. It was something saying kind of the same thing that you were saying. I kind of wish I could remember what book it was. But the first thing you said when you talk about I versus not saying I, you know, when you say I, you're representing the meanness in you, the being, that's being represented or invoked, you know. But saying like don't smoke, that's that's even a greater command, honestly, without even using the thing itself, the person itself, or uh, saying someone's name, which is very powerful. Any um, instead of saying I and just saying don't smoke, is just a more simpler um a more simpler command for something happening versus just saying I this, I that. But because we are who we are and we're aware of the things we're aware of, just like in everyday life, you always grow up to say I this, I'm hungry, I want to go outside, I want to go to sleep. You know, you don't say just sleep or hungry. You say I am, or I, or you know, talking about this meanness to somebody. And when you're talking about the unconscious, I feel like in a sense you can't directly talk to your unconscious, but through the subconscious mind, you can get certain information from it that may not necessarily be from your memory, but is a part of this eternal now. Um, so like, excuse me. So like, let's see. Which I gotta say, that was a good question, honestly. Oh.
That's what I'll be, bro. Like
So
crazy.
yeah,
I just be thinking this shit.
no, but that makes sense because even in the book where it this book that I read called Franz Bart Initiation, and inside of it talk about self-realization and going through these different exercises and things like that. Before even going to these exercises, these were things that I already did, but didn't know that it was such an important part of these things. But they talk about the differences between the I and the me, and a different book that's
Mm,
talking about the different parts of the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. The I is the conscious mind, and the me is the subconscious mind. You don't say me
mm,
hungry, me no smoke, or nothing like that. You don't say that.
yeah.
You don't do that. But it's like a computer program where you're just programming certain things, and the more you get closer to something less complex, the more simple it is, the better. So even going to where you say don't smoke, you already know who the I is. So there's really no need for you to say it, but you do anyway, just as a common command. But even more powerfully, to say don't smoke, don't smoke, and to repeat that, or have some sort of mantra in mind, or some beads that you use, things like that. you know those come hand in hand, just the same way as you talk about instinct and intuition. Now, I grew up, I always remember this was in fourth grade class. We learned about this was natural science. They were talking about you know innate behaviors versus learned behaviors. And innate behavior would be something called instinct. It's something that's in your DNA to know. Just like a snake knows that he sees, or not sees, but he senses the rat coming past, or the mouse coming past, and he strikes at it. He already knows that, okay, it's time to eat, or this thing is coming past me. I need to strike now at a specific time.
Yeah.
Accurate, not just half-assed or anything like that, or thinking about, oh, okay, well, how long is it going to take for it to get here, so on and so forth. No,
Yeah.
that's something more so that a human does.
Yeah.
Humans more so think about it and are more meticulous about these things. So what differs us is that, and it actually says something like that. Um, in one of the books that I have, where it's talking about nature versus the good, and the good is the mind, or the creator's mind, whoever you want to call it,
Mhm.
for sake of this conversation. But so nature is everything that is generated and regenerated. DNA is partly generated and regenerated through different generations.
Mhm.
So you have instinct within that, which is from nature, and you have the good, or you have the mind, which comes solely from God, or whoever you want to call it, the Father, basically, and not just some dude that's up in the sun or something like that, but something that is androgynous and permeates everything in existence. Even the animals that we talk about, they have that, but they don't have the mind. So just like there are different degrees of many things in this world, there are degrees of um, intellects, and degrees of consciousness and awareness of things. Um, and going back to intuition, intuition is more so like, I wouldn't want to say it's a guess. I wouldn't want to say it's anything but just knowing. It's not a guess at what it is. It's just you knowing, or just like I was saying, using the subconscious mind to, get in touch with the unconscious mind. Is this also what Gnostics call gnosis, which is again knowing. It's something where you can have a conversation to somebody, with somebody, and not know squat shit about anything, but be able to pick it up as they're talking and start to, break things down yourself in your own way. And it still is true. You can figure out, you could be thinking about something to yourself, and, be thinking to yourself, like, well, okay, well, what if blah, 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 like, what if this thing was that? And you look it up, and people are already talking about it because it's there, but you've never heard of it before. You just want to see if it was true or not. And come to find out, it is, because that is something that you already knew, but just to figure out if it is true, if it is something that's known. Let me look it up and see if it's actually real. Some sort of realization that you had, you know. And again, these things aren't you just, you know, this is not nothing brand new. This isn't anything new. Everything is remembered. You can say something, and then, you know, 25 years later, you know, uh, you find out that some philosopher 200, 300 years back had said that same exact thing. And like, wow, okay, well, this is revelational to me, but it's nothing new. It's just something that you knew or know. So I feel like the difference between instinct and intuition is a knowing versus something that is more gross and akin to your everyday survival. My instincts told me not to come into the house because I felt that there was danger. You can also look at that as intuition as well. But if you know by some sort of physical sense, or something just wasn't off to you, that that's where these things start to come hand in hand or whatever, and it can seem like, okay, well, well, this can lean toward instinct, but it's not something that's instinctual to you every day at a time. It's something that was um it was more so of an intuition, a premonition, something that you felt right then and there in that moment, rather than something that is always with you. You're not always going to know that there's danger around the corner. You know, like a a wolf or dog will know that there's somebody in the other room, but you don't smell them or hear them because it's not instinctual to you. It's not something for you to look out for.
Yeah.
You know, so that's where I feel like intuition, depending on how it is, and even me thinking right now is like coming into something that I just gotta try and figure out, like some sort of indirect, intuitive thinking, um, on the lines of, if it's indirect, then it's something that that just happens, without your will. But to will it to be would be something that would be direct, and you actually using it for some sort of purpose, like survival, which would then be a specific survival instinct, you know.
And that's,
But
bro, that's why I fought with
yeah,
you. I like how you just broke that shit down for real, because that's honestly like I feel like that's the best. I feel like that's the best definition or the best breakdown I could hear that possibly, because a lot of people like they over mystify that shit like pretty much like, and I just feel like like that's like one of the curses of the
no, you
whole.
gotta demystify everything.
You got a who?
I said you gotta demystify everything.
Exactly,
It's
bro. And
now all
like,
woo and all that.
that's what I'm saying, bro. Like, it's like we live in a consumeristic world, capitalistic society. I mean, capitalistic economy. So a lot of people, when they piece it together, they're doing it to sell it to you. So of course they gonna goddamn
Yeah.
manipulate the wording or whatever they got the way they got to. But I
Mm.
like how you just put that, bro, because on some real shit, bro, like a lot of the issues I had with that made me like kind of like more introspective about myself was the fact that I s- I don't like being judgmental, bro. So I don't like if I have an opinion about something, I don't like letting people know I think
Yeah.
that because I'm a businessman first. Like I hate to say it, I'm a businessman first. So
Uh-huh.
I want my personal reputation to be straight. So I would rather me say some shit to my
Uh-huh.
wife and then we laugh about it instead of just putting it out there on the internet. But one of the things I can say like discreetly is that people say stuff, they'll say stuff about intuition. Like it's a contradiction to me, basically. Like, so you're like, let's say, for example, somebody who literally like let's just use astrology for example. That's one of the ways, but astrology
Mm-hmm.
astrology is a science in which you have to use your intuition. Divination is a science in which you have to use your intuition. um like tarot card reading and shit like that, like palmistry, all these things are different shit which you have to use your intuition. And a lot of people uh who end up doing this stuff, they don't like the subconscious shit. From my point of view, I used to think it was something where people were, like you say, self-realization. So you're taking time out of your life to study what people
Yeah.
thousands of years have been saying about the human ego, basically. And that's where you could kind of like
Mm.
relate your ego to, and then it could be like subconscious learning or DNA activation or whatever they want to call that shit. With that being said, the people who are out here doing these like divinationary subconscious type arts, they don't heal their subconscious, but they take themselves to be an authority on intuition. So it's kind of like you're basically like the same
Yeah.
shit you were just saying about intuition, like it's a feeling. So if I look at this door, right, and I'm looking at this door and I'm like, something ain't right about this door. And I got like when I was a child,
Yeah.
I used to get my ass beat every time I get home, type shit. That's an example. So when I'm looking at this door, I'm like, I'm about to get my
Mm.
ass beat subconsciously. But somebody else could be standing next to me, like, I'm about to go home and go to sleep. I'm happy to be home, type shit. With that being said, people
Yeah.
who do this divination shit, they will look at like I feel like they're leading people down the wrong path because it's like they'll use their intuition, but really
You
it's
know, I
yeah.
I- I've seen people online. I'm looking at them, and not to just like directly judge with my eyes, because I don't do that. I go straight towards, what I've always done is to just use my intuition first. But just hearing certain things and keys, I'm able to pick up different patterns, and I'm like looking at certain people, and you can tell that, okay, well, all the things that they're learning and doing and stuff like that is actually causing them to be mentally unstable instead of actually stabilizing yourself and doing the work. And then it becomes something else. You just looking at them like, wow, you weren't like this a year ago. You weren't like this when I first known you. That's always like, I don't understand. But yeah, it's true. You really got to do the work first before you go into these divinations.
Exactly, bro. That's what they need. I mean, I just wanted to break that down because I feel like that's some shit where I just be in my head like, damn, bro, like, do you even know that there's people who literally sit on their ass and meditate 50 years to do what you say you can do in a fucking year, nigga? And I'm just like, okay, like, I'm not gonna knock
Yeah,
you.
for real.
Like, of course you're making money off that shit. I ain't gonna get mad, but it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, I do get mad because I actually respect these. I actually respect the divinations. I actually respect people who actually get in tune with their intuition.
Hmm.
But a lot of the shit that
Yeah,
they're
definitely.
using is instinctive. So it's like basically they're using it in survival. Like basically, if we don't as a conscious as a community or whatever you want to call that shit, if we don't go out there and distinguish the difference between instinct and intuition, then people are going to continue to use the subconscious term instinctively and not intuitionally. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's a fad. It's a whole fad. This whole thing, like when I first came into whatever this is called, this community, I guess that's what we call it, the conscious community. It it was just a whole bunch of people actually coming together and sharing knowledge and figuring out different things and coming together and reading books and so on and so forth. So it was good. Not a lot of people knew about it, you know, and I got into it because I started to have my own sort of awakening, but something actually real and tangible, not something that I just is like, oh, well, now I know that, the earth is flat or something like that. Just using an example, not
Right.
saying I'm a flat earther, but, like saying like, oh yeah, the earth is flat, my whole world has changed, things like that. But, versus something tangible where it has broken down your psyche and now you've changed because you're trying to figure out like what the hell has just happened to me. And now this thing has become a fad. People say woke and things like that, and trying to make it into something it's not. Everybody want to sell a crystal and half the shit fake or it's not done with the right intention. So it's so like things can get really misconstrued. Like it gets really fucked up.
What they doing
That's where
is,
it comes in where people yeah.
oh no, I was just about to say what they doing is
Okay.
they making young men like you and I smarter, bro. Because in a way, it's kind of like you said, since it's a fad, a lot of people like we are the type of young men who will basically like if we see a shitty meal and they got little vegetables on the plate, I'll eat the vegetables off that bitch. You get what I'm saying? If I'm hungry, eat the vegetable, I'll leave the rest of
Yeah.
the nasty shit there. And that's pretty much how I feel about this whole online community when it comes to like spiritual knowledge. And like as we get older, bro, like I just see the path where a lot of the people are going like I don't like being like an asshole, but it's like you all the people who are doing all who selling all this shit, including they pussy,
Yeah.
hey, they gonna come back in 20 years and they gonna be fucking miserable, bro. I hate to say it, cause I know people in my family right now who are 40 years old and they think like the niggas in the spiritual community, but the people who are 40 that I know are miserable, they they just now waking up like, oh shit, everything that I thought was real in my youth is not all like peaches and cream type shit. And that's what it seems like it is with this community.
Yeah.
And you feel me? I actually enjoy how you feel me, like when people who actually who study spiritual information, occult information, and that's why
Hmm.
I mean, so just getting back to the actual topic, shit. When it comes to the
Yeah.
instinct thing, I was thinking about like the principle of Wei Wu, pretty much, which is like something. It's like a Buddhist. It's like a Buddhist philosophy, pretty much. And the philosophy of it is pretty much like it's something that's so much a part of yourself. I guess the definition in English is be something that's so much a part of yourself that you will never even know, type shit. And that's why you feel me. I feel like I respect the Christian church a little bit more than the conscious community right now because
Yeah.
at least they got community centers, bro. If a nigga get hungry, you can go to the church, you can survive, you can use your instincts to go to the church and do all this shit. But
That's
the shit
true.
they teach you to do in the conscious community, like that shit gonna lead. Like I literally know a nigga right now who literally just because he living off the land type shit. This nigga got kids he won't go take care of. He living in the middle of a fucking jungle. He don't shower. He refused to go get money because he think the Federal Reserve. And I'm like, nigga, we all know the same shit. But the answer to that shit
Yeah.
is not going back to being a caveman, nigga. You get what I'm saying? And
Yeah, I feel you.
it's just like you said, it just got to be tangible shit with this. And then one of the tangible things I think is actually like principles, bro. So like I was gonna ask you, like you said the hermetic principles,
Definitely.
like what are some of your what are some of your other like most highest held like philosophical principles, if you would say so?
Principles that I um hold in high regard.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Well, I gotta say definitely that I gotta say that it's the one that I actually. So there was a point in time where I actually there wasn't any information coming in for me at all. Intuitively and just physically, try to look for some sort of guidance. Did certain different rituals and you know uh, spells, things like that, to try and help me out and figure out which way to go with certain things.
Yeah.
Nothing, nothing. Um, and at the time, I was just going on with the same information, and there was just nothing going on. So that one time, um, I was um, I was in Philadelphia at the time, and we went to, and I don't know why, but I keep thinking that you from Philly and you gonna know exactly what I'm talking about, but you're not. So I ain't gonna say no more about that. But yeah, so we went to Barnes and Noble, me and my brother, and so I started looking at the different books. They had the spiritual and occult section, which usually in Barnes and Noble you gonna have the teeny bopper teen witch type shit, and you're not gonna really get no information, right?
Yeah.
So
White woman shit.
yeah, so I end up finding a book called The Kabbalion. It's not this one right here isn't the complete one. This isn't the complete one. The complete one has the hermetic laws, and it also has the cosmic laws, which is something that is basically the hermetic laws, but um in detail about expanded consciousness. I'm trying to say it the best I can, but yeah, like it takes those seven laws and takes it to a higher level, basically.
Mm.
And so when I found this out, I started reading it, and so this is where it's like intuition versus instinct. No, instinct didn't tell me to read it a certain way. You know, it was my intuition that told me to read it a specific way instead of to just read it down and just keep reading and things like that. I read it like a manual, instructions versus just reading it like a book of information, just a book about bugs or something like that. I read it like a manual rather. And
Mm.
so because of that, I was able to get some practical things out of it and use it in a practical way. And one of the first laws that I learned was all is mind. The universe is mental.
Mm.
So that right there, I hold that very high because it actually showed me the path that I was going to take to start changing my mindset in the way that I think. And so now my logic is completely different and skewed to what other people's are. And not to say I'm this whole magical person and I do this and I do that, because I'm not. But it's definitely different. I've noticed it. Many people have noticed that it's different from what you know the regular mundane thinking is. And so use because I was able to use these laws in a practical way and actually apply them to my own mindset, is it switched everything around. And realizing that everything was mental in nature, that's kind of a hard task to get somebody to understand. Um, you can tell somebody that, but it takes their mind to actually visualize it and realize that, hey, the things that I'm looking at are actually a mental projection of what's going on up here, and to actually try and figure out what those things were. So because of that, it was like, okay, now you start going into, quantum physics. You go into, things that are observed, exist, and things that are not observed don't exist. Like, if I'm not looking behind me, none of that shit exists. You may see it and it exists to you, but not to me. And that literally everything that is, you know, everything in the mind is mine. That even further than that, you couldn't call yourself a god, because you aren't truly in the sense of God. But God is a part of you. God is mind. God is part of mind. You share that mind, and you're in this meditation that the mind holds you in, the universal mind, or the Father's mind, the all, everything that is in existence, this whole thing, big, this all. I'm gonna just call it the all, because you're held within the all has you within its meditation,
Yeah.
its dream state, and so you are inside of that dream, which means that you're mind, which means also that you don't technically exist, you know and thinking about all these things bouncing back and forth and stuff, they can definitely play a big part on you. And then not only that, but it was let me see which other one. It was the law of rhythm. That definitely played a big part, in me too. Like I actually want to try and read something from it. But the law of rhythm is everything, you know, everything has its own rhythmic swing. The swing from the left makes the same, swing to the right.
Mhm.
Sure, I'm not saying that right now,
No, I get what
but
you're saying.
yeah, yeah. So like that rhythmic swing, it helps you understand that, there are different what is it called, a trough, different troughs in life, which is the height of the vibration versus or no, the lower part of the vibration, um within frequencies. You talk about the different peaks. So understanding the low points and the high points and the way things sway and the way, you know, different patterns sway into your life and then sway out and different things just go on, and being able to actually see that, make that connection, that is something else completely. To actually be able to like actually know that, okay, well, this just swung back into my life, and something, I know something will come again where I'm in the same situation, and before it happens I can see that that pattern come back up again and do something about it, rather than for me to just blindly go into it, you know not doing anything about it or not knowing, which prepares you for a lot of things. um so like that really, that was that was definitely something else, being able to do things like that. So I feel like with the Kabbalion and the Hermetic sciences, it really shows you how to use the mind in a constructive way in the tools that it actually gives you. They call it basically having a master key, to open up many doors of thought. So like, sciences like Hermetics, or the Kabbalah, or Sufism, Buddhism, these different spiritualities help open up some sort of door to different thoughts. You see what I'm saying? So because they teach some sort of core aspect of different things, you'll be able to pick up other forms of thought as you progress in your journey to whatever.
Yes.
Um, yeah, but let me see something. This is one on one. I had some stuff that I wanted to read off from the Corpus Hermeticum too, because that book, if you haven't gotten it, that shit is real. I promise you that,
You said
on
the
everything.
medicine?
That shit is real. No, the Corpus Hermeticum. That
Oh,
it got some real shit up in there. But yeah, the law of rhythm, everything flows out and in, everything has its tides, all things rise and fall. The pendulum swing manifests in everything. The measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left. rhythm compensates. So it's like this. You ever seen those metal balls that swing back and forth like like this, like
Yeah,
they just yeah. But even with that, that shows you like the ups and downs of life, the ins and outs. You see a tidal wave. You see a wave coming in. You see you know frequencies or the sound of it humming and going in, going out. So many different things. The more you pay attention to that, the more you can learn from it. But there's um several paragraphs in this book that give mention to the mind, the subconscious mind. And I wanted to read those off because I felt like they gave a very unique input on how we view things.
mm-hmm.
So let me see. Um, Nature presently laying hold of what it so much loved, did wholly wrap herself about it, and they were mingled, for they loved one another. And from this cause man above all things that live upon earth is double, mortal because of his body, and immortal because of the substantial man. For being immortal and having power of all things, he yet suffers mortal things, and as such as are also subject to fate or destiny. And therefore, being above all harmony, he is made and becomes a servant to harmony. He is hermaphrodite, a male and female, watchful. He is governed by and subjected to a father, that is both male and female, and watchful. After these things, I said, you are my mind. I am in love with reason. Then said Pomander, this is the mystery that is this day, is hidden and kept secret, for nature being mingled with man, brought forth a wonder most great, for he having the nature of the harmony of the seven. Um, so in that part, they just give notice to the male and female aspects of the mind. You have the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere. You have the conscious and the subconscious. The conscious being male, everything apparent and light, and the female, everything being unapparent and dark. Just like people give mention to the womb, they give mention to darkness or outer space, to actual water, in the abyss and things like that. Water is akin to information, in how water holds information. So then you take that with the darkness and how darkness is just the inquiry into trying to find light, in the darkness. Um, and there's another one. I think this is the page. I think I probably just missed it too. It's honestly a lot uh to really want to go through because like I if I could I'd read this whole book to you, but I'm not gonna do that. I promise you.
Yeah. I mean,
But like
shit,
I,
it's
I would
fine though,
definitely
bro. Like, I mean, where
I
like
would definitely do that shit.
where's a good place that they can get it
I
from? Like, or where's a good place that you would think like an audio book or something? Do they got it on YouTube?
Hey, so they yeah, they definitely do have it on YouTube, but you won't get the better of it unless you actually get the out of print book. Like it's no longer in print, you know. Um because it's from uh third century AD. So
Mhm.
like that's how old this shit is. But even, with that, you have different iterations and things like that. But yeah, the book is surprisingly very cheap. It was only $6 for the book.
Wow.
And you can get, the same book or different other books, uh iterations from people that have written it or wrote their you know, try to do their own make their own thoughts about it. But Yeah, like you can go to Amazon and get that and look it up and everything, and
Yeah.
you can go from there and check it out.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, it's only like $6. Don't cost that much.
That's what's up. Gotta save
Yeah.
money on the car. I know they, bro. Literally, bro. Like I think I spent at least $2,000 on fucking books this year, bro. Cause these books be so expensive. So if
Yeah,
you
it's
save me
real.
$6, I'm about to go get that shit, bro. Like dead ass. And
Yeah, it's like
also,
literally 650.
I was gonna ask you too, bro. Like, do you feel like there's any how can I say this? Like, okay, like the okay, for example, like, do you feel like how can I say occult information and compromises a combination? Like, okay, do you feel like occult science is always encompasses a duality of somebody trying to teach you something spiritual and scientific at the same time, or do you feel like um a lot of these occult things could be just like using like artistic or spiritual like phrases in order to paint pictures of something at the time that they were at the time where they were saying this shit, they couldn't like say, oh yeah, like basically there's this like if I say to you there's a cell and inside of this cell you have a what they call that shit, fuck, a nucleus, and then you got the mitochondria, then you have the ribosomes. They
Yeah.
say all this shit to you. But back in the day, like how can you say this? Like, so basically I'm saying like which one do you like out of those two outcomes, which one you think is more likely when you intuitively are reading like through these books?
Well, with a lot of these books, because you call it a cult, it's just hidden knowledge. It's hidden information. That's all it really is. It's nothing too big and spectacular, but people, got this whole spooky idea when you hear a cult. Like it's something so huge and big and things like that. But just the word alone, we turned into this big spectacle for it to be dark and mysterious. Like mostly all types of occult things are black because black is synonymous with mystery.
Mm-hmm.
But it don't really got to be like that. Honestly, if you can call a let me see, you can call some sort of, if you had a book on quantum mechanics, and somebody, like, not a lot of people know about that book, you can call that occult information. Nobody don't know about it, and because they don't know, when you bring it up, it can be like, oh, that's not true. He's like, yeah, well, it's just hidden. You don't know about it. It's just not that popular. It's not in view of everything. But so when you talk about that, is even during their times, them writing these things, they only could write in their times and how they wrote things at that time. They can't write for somebody in 2003, 2020. They can't do that. They're not looking for that. Well, they think that, hey, somebody, further down the line will read this book, yeah, but they're not thinking about it as, you know them needing to write it in that sort of way. That's why you have, the same book but written different ways. That's why you have the Bible, which is written in different ways. I'm not going to go into that because that's gonna be some bullshit. Promise you. But yeah. So, like, if they're trying to explain what's inside of a cell, they're trying to explain the different organelles and things like that makes up, a cell. It's like they're going to write it in a way that, and you got to understand that depending on what time it was, that they weren't actually supposed to be talking about this stuff. It was it was banned from it was banned by the churches. They didn't want you to be reading it. If it wasn't Catholicism, if it wasn't, Judaism, Christianity, you couldn't do that. There were times before then, before people tried to, take a hold on information all over the world, that you could talk about these things freely. But even then, there were secret societies and things like that, where, there were organizations where people would say certain phrases or keywords and things like that, and be able to, you know get whoever knows to understand. Oh, okay, he knows what's really talked about, what's really going on. Like Ring Around the Rosie, A Pocket Full of Police, or however the song goes, is actually talking about the Black Plague. But somebody who doesn't know that would just think that it's some child's nursery rhyme, and that's just it, you know. And then even in that, you talk about how that could be some sort of phrase for somebody to understand, hey, meet me, you know, at this house at 8 o'clock or something like that. And we can go on and talk about this information freely without so and so being there and we having to worry about persecution and everything like that. So they had to read it in a way. I mean, they had to write it in a way that was going to hide the information, but also be available for the people who know to interpret what they were saying. So yeah, you had a certain artistic style with sciences to try and figure out, or try to hide things and keep it out of plain sight. And even with these books today, it's a lot of reading it as it is, and also going back and reading behind what they're saying as well. And it takes a certain amount of intuition and, well, I believe a lot of visualization to actually figure out what these things are, what they're saying, because even just in the corpus hermeticum alone, they talk about before you even start reading a book, there are about 18 secrets within, and me already like, what, let me try and figure these things out. And then realizing that there's not actually 18 secrets in it. It's just a way of growing your intuition and, what you get out of the information that they give, so that's what a lot of these different books are doing for you. you know um the imagination also, that plays a big part in how your intuition plays. If you don't have a huge imagination, if you weren't daydreaming as a child, it's going to be that much harder for you to actually figure out certain things, because your mind isn't going to make those big connections. If you've just believing that, there, like, you grew up, there wasn't no God, there wasn't no hope but your will and your ability to do things. If you weren't able to do them, and you just can't do them, and that's just it. You just had a plain lifestyle, didn't really go out and explore and do these different things that you may see other kids do, go camping or go outside. You stayed inside, you were sheltered, never really had much to be able to use your imagination. Then now it would be a lot harder for somebody to pick it up, because they're only going to rationalize what they see face value. That's it, you know. And also realizing that some books are going to just have the information that's on face value. Some books aren't. But depending on what it is, and not being so deep and not connected to reality, then you just becoming a whole fool, and you probably just becoming mentally unstable. It's a fine line, or it can and it can't be. But I feel like what a lot of things is like with intuition and magic and things like that, you can only go but so far into the imagination until it starts to become something that just that ain't worth shit, you know. So it has to be something that always has a basis in reality. It has a basis in reality. You have to be tangible and have a tether connected to the tangibility to go out into the intangible places and things like that. You got to know that you can also bring it back to the tangible and connect it to it at all times for it to be that. Then after that, it's just mysticism and things that are just so unexplained, like gnosis, that you can't really get around it, you know. But like, yeah, like that's basically it. Like you really had to be artistic, as well as scientific with it, not just scientific in just the facts and just, hey, this is what we're talking about, and the earth is this way and that way and so on and so forth. They had to do it because you had to weed certain people out who, which this is another quote that I like. Some people have both the mind and the speech, and others just have the speech. So there are certain people that have the speech, can talk about it for days, but not have the mind to actually conceptualize it all and to figure it all out. Then you have those who have both the mind and the speech, who can, yeah, they can talk about it, but they also have the mind to do all these things for it. And that's a lot how it is today. Some people, would say, "Oh, yeah, those are the chosen people." I don't feel like there's such thing as um, chosen people. More so as
You don't?
people who have gotten to a point in their life. Wait, people who've gotten to a point in their life where they can do that. Where they can get to that point to feel like they're that chosen person because they're able to conceptualize. Some people just aren't ready, for it.
Mhm.
That's about it. But as far as anything going forward with some sort of prophecy and things to happen and things like that, that's another subject. But yeah, that's my answer on that.
That's what's up, bro. I definitely agree with you on that, bro. Like everything is definitely it's a beautiful balance. And I mean, like you said, bro, like at the end of the day, it is about like how you perceive everything and how you can imagine it for yourself. And then like with that being said, that's a lot of people get confused in that tool of like these words that we use. And that's like when you were saying about people speaking and people having a mind and shit like that. Like a lot of the times, like what I realized is a lot of these, okay, like for example, for myself, because I can only speak for myself egocentrically.
Hmm.
Um, like one of the reasons why I actually fell in love with philosophy was because of the reason that it helped me expand my philosophy. I mean, it helped me expand my artistry and imagination as an artist and a musician. So eventually I got so deep in it that you feel me, it a philosophy and philosophies and principles, they're tools, you get what I'm saying? But as a young person, that's why you have
Hmm.
a lot of these like societies and shit like this who believe that if you teach people knowledge without giving them a discipline, then you're pretty much like helping them drive themselves crazy. So it's kind of like I kind of had
Yeah.
that experience to a certain extent because you feel me, the knowledge, if you let the knowledge, if you identify yourself with the knowledge, then that's when you become like a Christian or what they call a hermetic or anything like that. You get what I'm saying? And also you have people like you said, on the other end of the scale, who are just purely intellectual and fucking scientific. And they just be like trying to fucking prove everything physically. But I love, bro, like literally, I'm at a point in my life where I can say I love both. Like, I love, I love
Mm.
extremists. I love extremists. If it wasn't for extremists, this world would be so fucking boring, bro. And the only reason I say that is because like the extreme of these crazy people out here who really don't even know, like who never picked up a hermetic book, who never picked up the fucking, you feel me, Upanishads, who never picked up the Kabbalion, who never picked up the Torah, who never picked up
Mm.
anything besides probably the Bible in on Sunday type shit. These people are actually, in a way, the most imaginative people. They're the most imaginative robots that I've seen, at least exist, and that gives me hope for AI in the future. I know AI is going to be so beautiful, but just seeing how these
Nah.
people are fucking imaginative, and yet they don't even like, it's just like you could give somebody a seed and then it's like you can give somebody a dose of information and then their imagination will run off with that shit. It's crazy how I've seen that shit happen.
Yeah.
With that being said, it's fun. Like if it wasn't for that, life would be boring. Then if it wasn't for the scientific nigga who are fucking, in a way, like they're dicks, bro. Like if you ever been around a purely scientific intellectual motherfucker, it's kind of like, nigga, how do you even get pussy? How do you get anything done? But at the end of the day,
Yeah.
they have beautiful minds because it's like a lot of the illusions or a lot of the imaginations that people have that actually stop them from being able to see what's actually happening in reality to ground their imagination. It's like these scientists don't have
Mm.
any of that, like any of the false notions that pretty much people use to defend their ego. And it kind of makes them the most vulnerable people on earth in a way. Like, how do you feel about that? Like pretty much it's like, for one, I mean, I know we 2 hours in and shit. I don't know if you got other shit planned, but anytime you're ready to go, let me know, bro.
No, I ain't got nothing planned. No, I'm with it. Let's get it.
Yeah, like what I was about to say. Okay, so how do you feel about, like, for one, like, I know a big thing with intuition is imagination, but also how do you feel about vulnerability, and also how do you feel about pretty much like, I know we kind of spoke about this already, but how do you feel about the ego overall, bro? Like, I know we spoke about the I type thing, but like, how do you
Oh,
feel about the ego
yeah.
in general as an idea?
Okay. Yeah, it's certain things that I would think to myself, but never been able to give a chance to. Like I talk to um my partner all the time about things, but it's different to actually be able to talk to someone else besides the run of the mill people you always talk to about the things. So, that's a question that, like, I don't want to say it like this to make it seem egotistical or whatever like that, since
Yeah.
we talking about the ego. But it seems like a question that's like far past, like okay, I've already thought about those things already. I'm on to something else. But
Mm-hmm.
it's always good to go right back to the things and revisit them because, like I said, everything is a half truth and can be reconciled again and again and again.
Mm-hmm.
So, the ego. At first, realizing that it's what you identify with is everything that goes into your personality and what makes you you, or what makes the identified part of you, your your you being personified basically in this body. That's the ego. But at a point, I used to think, coming into the information, oh, the ego is bad. Get rid of the ego. You got to kill the ego. The ego is like pride and so on and so forth. You got to, destroy it. It's bad. It's, destructive, so on and so forth. And then actually getting a better understanding of what the ego is from, different sources and actually just seeing it, talked about so much. You get so many different ways of looking at it. And so then it takes you back to, okay, well, there you go. Yeah, you is something that you identify as, you in a, personified energy, energetic body, if if you want to call it that. Um, and it's not bad. It's not something that you need to kill or destroy or anything like that.
You can't.
Your ego is what makes you what makes you you. Like you don't want to just say like, oh yeah, I'm gonna kill my ego. Then what are you then? If you aren't part of your ego, what are you really? Um, what are you really looking at when you look in the mirror? If not, part of your ego, from the clothes to how you talk, how you dress your hair, how you look, how you say things, and how you present yourself to people, how you present yourself to yourself. If those aren't it, and those are just conditions, those are just things that you've been conditioned to do. You conditioned yourself to do to present yourself to people and you know yourself in a way. Then what is it that you are? You're just being. It's just a being, and that's it. This being that just breathes, eats like other animals do, like cats, dogs, so on and so forth. Then you're just being, because they're just simply being. They go by simple instinct every day, which is all about survival. There's no specific ego telling them, oh, you got to get these latest sneakers, so on and so forth, such, or whatever like that. But it goes into those type of things because, um, with the ego, in identifying with, let's say, I learned about skateboarding at 16. So, I started skateboarding at 16. I started, going to skate parks and things like that. And, you know, I'm I may not be able to, afford it at the time, probably got a job at McDonald's or something like that, and you saying to yourself, okay, like I can't afford it, but everybody's wearing it, everybody has it, and stuff like that. Making yourself feel bad, making yourself feel like you're less than this, and so on and so forth. But you're supposed to be this big skater. How come you don't have the latest skate shoes, or how come you don't have the latest, skate wear, basically?
Yeah.
And you think to yourself like, damn, like that's so fucked up. Like I really wish I had them and stuff like that. So you spend all your money on them new sneakers. So now you're feeling good and everything like that, but then you can't pay your rent. You can't pay this. You can't pay that. And you made this sacrifice, and it was all good. Your inner voice, or people say sometimes it's the ego telling you, hey, like, damn, you went from damn, you don't got the shoes to, oh, you got them fly ass sneakers on, to now like, damn, you dumb as shit. You should never bought that stuff.
Yeah.
Going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth because because of what you identify with, and because you can't get with what's the latest in identity,
Mm.
nowadays, things like that. It versus matching up your identity with your spirit and how you actually feel, you know. So, and you got to think to yourself like, so what part exactly is the ego of my mind? And what part is my spirit? All I know is that spirit is mind. That's what that is. Your spirit is mind. Mind is the spirit. It moves with thought, just like thought is. Um, and so I would like to think that the ego is, the conscious mind, anything that you're aware of, and playing parts with the subconscious mind, but more so of the conscious mind, things that, in a moment you're like, hey, that would be cool to get, and then you get them and you go through that whole same thing, versus what's just naturally in your spirit, or going into the unconscious mind, as we talked about before, and actually comparing those two things together, which that's actually getting me into, they're called your soul mirrors. There's these two mirrors. They have many functions, but one of the functions is to show you the your show what elements are more prominent within your aura, versus the ones that you would probably need to work on so that you can balance everything out. um and so it's kind of like that, where there's these great qualities, and there are these poor qualities within you, and trying to actually figure out what is what. And so that's where you go into actually, breaking down the ego, or killing off the ego. Is it really dead? Are you really trying to kill it off for real, like altogether? No, because you can never kill something that's a part of your psyche. That's just a part of it. You know, that's a part of your astral body, is the ego. That's where your personalities live, in the astral realm. Your imagination and your dreams and all of those combined together. And so, that's where, like, when I was talking about awakening and coming into these newfound realizations and things like that, when you come into these realizations, you come into this awakening, and it gets to a point where you're contemplating yourself, and you're trying to figure out you, and you're going through all the things you were conditioned to do, all the things that you were conditioned to learn, all the learned behaviors, and figuring out what is you, what isn't you, down to the smallest things, like a smirk you make, or something that you do when you're nervous, something that you do when you're happy, something that you do when you're sleepy, uh, how you eat. the way you eat, different things like that. Every bit of information inside of you, you go through it and figure out what works and what doesn't work. And then that's when you start going into if it aligns with the ego, with your spirit. I mean, and then once you do that, then your ego becomes, you know, more willing to play a part in your spirit and how you feel, or your higher purpose, what you actually want to do, rather than what you say you want to do, but that's not you in the first place. You know, that's your ego. That's a part of pride. You know, that's where that comes into play, is you wanting to look like something else, or what somebody else is imitating, rather than what you have within you and that you can bring to the table. Because nobody needs clones of the same person. That's ridiculous.
That,
Versus just everybody just being themselves, and being in tune with them. That's just the spirit. That's it.
that's real, bro. And I can honestly say, like you said, bro, like that's some like the ego is one of the things that everybody first learn when they get into the spiritual journey or whatever you want to call it. I call it an unknown.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like that's one of the things that I feel like pretty much I see my mind is like how you said, like I forgot what you said earlier about always wanting to correct it. It's like everything could be right and wrong at the same time. But for some reason, you feel me, collectively as humans, we do hold certain things like to be, you get what I'm saying? Collectively as human beings,
Hmm.
we hold certain ideas and principles not to be half truth and half lie. It's like, no, that's a fucking truth type shit. For example, like you have to fucking breathe. You get what I'm saying? Now,
Hmm.
scientifically, I'm pretty sure you don't have to breathe out your mouth or your nose. Like I'm pretty sure there's many ways to get oxygen to your body, but we have an
Yeah.
experiment with that
Like
shit.
poor breathing.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So with that being said, there's always an exception to that shit, but generally, since nobody has tried that, we accept the fact that we all have to breathe as human beings.
No. Yeah.
So with that being said, I also be trying to I feel like I'm at a level or spiritual or the point I'm at in my spiritual shit. I've been like basically uh consciously, how can I I've been consciously trying to supply my ego with nothing but like vulnerable information or vulnerable knowledge or vulnerable principles. And I find that pretty much like one of the hardest things people can do on this planet is fucking be vulnerable, bro. I don't know why. Like the only creatures on this planet that's really like vulnerable is like babies type shit. Like, and
I
with
knew you
that
was
being
gonna say that.
and
Yeah,
with
that's
that
true.
being said, bro, like at the point we at as human beings overall, people say we're in the age of Aquarius. We at this like we're in this beautiful thing, which is a whole nother conversation, bro. But with that
Yeah.
being said, collectively as humans, I feel like we're at a point to where we're learning overall like the actual difference between like the actual truth and like I'm not because like you said, bro, everything is the truth and it's a lie at the same time. But I feel like there's so like the things where ancient cultures like Egypt and the Mayans and the Aztecs or the fucking the Kushites or the fucking people in India, what they call them, the rishis or the fucking yogis or whatever you want to call them. Every one of these
Mm.
motherfuckers, they reached a point to where they was like, okay, like fuck everything else going on outside. I'm gonna just focus on like this actual the body that I have. I'm gonna focus on this shit and then relay this off to other people. I feel like basically since these points
Yeah,
of
for
times,
real.
everybody else who wasn't doing that is like we can see that shit now. Like we can see motherfuckers actually becoming better people over time. We can see people strangely
Yeah,
changing their whole fucking sex type shit. You get what I'm saying? And it's just crazy because it's
mm,
like these
for
things
real.
we thought were laws, they're not. And that's what I'm pretty much trying to go with this. Like, do you feel like there's a part of human beings that you feel me? Like, I know that. I mean, I know there's a part of us that wants to prove everything wrong, but at the same time, like, what do you think determines? Like, I know your ego. Okay, I know your ego plays a part of it, but what do you think determines like that factor of somebody basically saying like, okay, what do you think determines the factor of somebody being born and accepting their life the way it is, no matter like what happens, even if something considered bad, they won't get sad type shit, or even if they cry and shit, they don't consider it to be bad. You get what I'm saying? Do you feel like that's possible for us as human beings moving forward? Or do you feel like we're always going to be on this?
Look, hey, go ahead. Say that. Say what you was gonna say.
Or do you feel like we're always going to be on this nonstop like journey for more type shit? But like I want another bag of chips type shit. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yep. Ultimately, I don't want to be a pessimist because that's usually the case. But I don't think that it's going to. I don't think shit is really going to change as a whole. You have individuals out there who are going to get their shit together. You have individuals, even in okay, even with the whole, you get maybe a percentage of those people that split off and actually start saying, "Hey, it is what it is. Let me start doing better. I don't need all of this glitz and glamour and so on and so forth. I'm fine with you know my life. I'm just we're gonna not do what y'all are doing. You know, and split off. But even in that group, then you have those who still split off into more, into other parts of those groups, because then you and I've explained this is how consciousness is definitely like a tree. You got certain people that'll keep going up the tree. They'll just keep going to the highest branches. And you'll have people who just get cut off at certain branches, won't go back and then find, a different path that gets them higher and higher. Some people will just stay at one place and be content. Like there are different phases in, you know, this self development. Most of us go through the whole pro black phase where, we find out the information, you know, pro black now, hippie type phase, then you go through, all these different other phases, and because of that, some people get stuck in that and that's just it. That's all they see is color. Some people just get stuck in, it's all peace and love and that's it. You have others who just trying to figure out more and more about what's going on because you just have that thirst for knowledge and information. Okay, cool. That's not a problem. That's an amazing thing. And then you got those who don't travel up the tree, who just don't care or just going to follow behind, you know, this one person or this group of people who plan on chopping the tree down. And, they'll be fine with saying, those people are going to, make us a new tree, and that's it. Let's just follow behind them and do what they do. And you basically following them off a cliff
Mm.
and, meeting your own doom with that. So individuals can become vulnerable. Individuals can become vulnerable. Individuals can, be better and actually like just look at life as it is what it is. This is just how you know how life what life dealt me. I'm brown skin. Life dealt me the fact that I'm brown skin. Am I going to change my color and become white, transracial, or some shit like that?
Yeah,
No, I'm not about to do that. Like that don't make no sense. I accept that I am who I am. But
I
then you
got.
have those who cannot accept it. Yeah, go ahead.
I ain't mean to cut you off, bro, but this shit burning on my brain right now.
No, you good. You
So
good. Do you think?
I said something that I meant to ask you earlier, but my thought went somewhere else. But it's basically about the law of attraction, bro. So you said
Yeah.
something you said. People who you brought up the people who think about race, and you brought up people who think about love and happiness and shit like that. Like, do you feel like,
Mm.
for example, like people who think about love and happiness, do you feel like, okay, I'm gonna just tell you what I think, and then I'm gonna ask you what you think. Like personally, I think uh the law of attraction is like, it's a duality. You get what I'm saying? Because we live in a free will universe type shit. So with that being said,
Yeah.
you you can attract certain shit to you by thinking about it. And magnetically, our thoughts are magnetic, literally. So yeah,
Mm.
but at the same time, I do feel like basically the law of when you bring awareness to the law of attraction, it's kind of like one of those spiritual things where the more you try to the more you try to grab it or hold on to it or understand it, is the less you actually understand it type shit. You get what I'm saying? Like,
Mm.
because it's naturally already there for you. Your thoughts are naturally magnetic. So it's like if I walk up to a nigga who thoughts are naturally magnetic and I make him obsessed with that, it's kind of like you're throwing that shit off. But that's just my opinion about it. Like, but I want to know what you think about it. Like, can a person who actually, for example, like, can a person who thinks about peace, nothing bad ever happened, they think about bubbles and rainbows, do you feel like literally they live in a fucking reality where like nothing bad ever happens to them? Like they're millionaires and all, or they just fucking live a very happy life? Or do you feel like or pretty much they still live like they still have fucked up shit happening to them too, basically, and they still crying all that shit too?
Well, I mean, that that right there, that's really open ended because it could be interpreted so many different ways. There's so many different personalities, and there's so many different people that look different, and like you can move one or two eyes of your mouth or your nose, 2 inches, 1 inch to the left or the right, up or down, and you become a different person. You know, so it don't take much for there to be a lot of different people in this world, and a lot of different conditions and variables that play along with that. So if somebody not depending on what type of variable they were born in and things like that, what karma was dealt to them. um Hold on, I need to get my phone charger.
All right, do your thing.
One second.
We all think about shit like this. Like, because this shit is not meant to be a gimmick. So why the fuck is everybody making it a gimmick? You feel me?
All right.
You back, bro?
Yeah, so damn, what was I saying? So yeah, so if you're not born with a certain set of variables that play along in your life, and it's not good or it's not bad. Like, it's not dependent on it. This question isn't dependent on those variables. It's just dependent on their mindset. If you live in a world where you say that, okay, everything is peaceful, everything is love, everything is serene, and nothing bad can happen, that you'll look at life as, even if you got your arm chopped off, oh, this is for a reason. It's not bad. I guess I just didn't need it. Something like that. You'll convince, or you'll make yourself believe that that's the way it is. It's the same. It's the same as, like, the only reason that you live is because of hope. Or no, I'm sorry. The only reason that belief is able to live is because of hope. And the simple fact that humans, at the base of everything, need hope. They need hope to believe that they can survive through the next days. Hope that there'll be you know day again, night again. Hope that food is around the corner. Hope that they can do this and do that, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Hope is a very strong thing. Um, and if and I forgot where I was going with this. Damn. Uh, But
Shit, we was talking about the law of attraction though, like
when it comes, yeah, when it comes down to what in the world? When it comes down to belief, it's it's a big thing because you start to um how can I say? It's like okay, like you know, you might have had a shitty life and you start looking into magic and your belief in magic because your hopes that it will make your life a lot easier, or you start believing that life is, you want life to be more peaceful and lovely and serene, and love and light all around and stuff like that, and nothing bad can happen, and if something does happen, and it was for a reason, because you know you hope to get out of a world that feels like that already or had felt like that. So now you decided, okay, well, I'm going to ignore those things that are, the negativity that are happening around. If something happens negative, that I'm going to respond peacefully and with love, and that these things will come out. And yeah, in some cases that, yes, because of the way you look at it, then yeah, things positive will happen. It depends entirely on the person's mindset. And I do believe as well, their karmic cycle, the cause and effect, things that they caused and has left effects over and over again that trickled down to this lifetime, and how they deal with that. So maybe they had something good, and then coming into this lifetime, it's like, okay, I'm looking at life as it being beautiful, and there's never a sad day. I'm never going to be down. Life is just blissful. You know, and it may actually be that way. Things might just be given to you. You might find $100 on the ground, and then you say, you know what, I found a wallet with it, and then, you know, because you're in this blissful state, and you're like, you know what, I don't need it, and give it to the police or something like that. Then the person, wants to know who found their wallet for you. Then, you know, all because of that, then you start to get to know this person, and then, these things start to trickle down to, like somebody feeling like, they owe you one. So do you need anything? No, I don't need anything. But they see that you live in a certain way. So they decide to give you a house, or they decide to give you money instead, or bring you into their company and things like that. These are things that can just happen without your actually really needing, needing them to happen. They just naturally are just going to come in because of, you know, your karmic response, which
yeah.
is what the thing that you said or did that affected, how the outcome is going to come out, basically. So, like, yeah, like, as far as that goes, like your mindset is just definitely going to play a big part in a lot of things in life. Like, if you don't change your mindset, nothing is going to change for you. If you got a negative mindset and you just thinking that, everything bad is going to happen, and this is bad, and you're just living in fear basically all the time, then only fear-based things are going to come out because of that. That's not all the times though, because there are
Yeah,
people who
I was
got
about to
fucked up
say,
lives, but great things have happened to them though.
that's what I was about to
It's
say.
some shit like that, but hey,
It's
you know
like that's why I be like I like clarifying shit. It's good talking to people like you because it's like you're spiritual, but you're also grounded too. You get what I'm saying? Like that's a big thing, bro.
yeah,
Because it's like that's the balance right there. So it's like we should be as adults. We should be able to ask like simple questions, like because a lot of this shit is like they make it seem like if you talk about this shit in public, you talk about this shit in public, then you basically lame type shit. You know how you was in high school and you got down wore some type you wore certain shit in high school. Everybody like they started jumping.
yeah,
You know, like, bro, that shit type shit. That's basically how it is. Like
yeah,
adults, like as young adults that we are. I just feel like, damn, why do I feel like I can't ask certain people like straightforward questions like, do you believe in this or that? Because like like, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it's like at the end of the day, that's what we need to get to, because it's like people, a lot of this shit is like confusing, bro. And it's meant to, a lot of this shit they give our generation is intentionally given to us at a young
Mm-hmm.
age so that we will self-destruct. You get what I'm saying? So it's like, with that,
Yeah.
yeah, I I always like, right, like for example, like you gave a great example. You was like everything's about duality, and like that's why it's like it's crazy. Like it's balanced. Like I feel like it's got to be like some shit where it's like you got to be a frozen puck of ice inside of a cold ass river or ocean type shit, because like for example, people who actually like you got people called doomsday preppers. You get what I'm saying? Like people who actually like, for example,
Yeah.
they're pessimists to the point to where they literally go to work, they grow their kids up and all that shit with the idea that something fucked up is going to happen. They don't know what it is, but they know, and that's what I'm saying. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of realistic. That's the same shit we talk about. Like basically, like you can't control everything.
Yeah.
You can't control everything. So it's like it's good
Mm.
to have a balance. So it's like a lot of people might see like some of the shit that people see as being pessimistic. A lot of the shit that people see as being pessimistic in our society is actually people like being optimistic with the shit that we've been given.
Yeah.
So with that being said,
For real.
like for example, like people like think about all the people who watched the economy get destroyed, and then they learned about economy before that shit happened, and they invested in certain shit. They billionaires now. You get what I'm saying? They literally
Yeah.
millionaires now, and that's just because they took advantage of like they took advantage of what they knew. They knew fucked up shit was gonna happen.
Time and opportunity. For real.
That's what I'm saying, bro. And today our generation has been taught to like hate people like that. You get what I'm saying? But a lot of these people are actually like
Mm.
just everyday people like you and I in an earlier generation though in this society that just they didn't know what to do. They didn't have the internet to say, "Oh yeah, let me hit up my boy Amenta, and then we could talk about the spiritual shit." They had to think about that shit to themselves. They was like, "Okay, like, am I technically a bad person for putting my money into some shit that I know is bad for people, but they gonna use it even if I tell them not to?" Like, do you know, bro? It's people who get on the internet and literally they have hundreds of $1,000s invested into the shit that they say that they talk against. Literally, bro.
Yeah.
And that's I used to be like that's hypocrisy, and hypocrisy is illegal in my house. You feel me? I don't like that shit. So it's like,
Mm.
but that's where because I feel like the truth is something where it's like I feel like the truth, like real universal truth, is something where it's a feeling that everybody like you could say that shit or you can act in that way, and then somebody naturally like just feel good. You feel me? That's the truth type shit. So it's like with that being said, like if I can goddamn make people feel good in a society where I know people who are I know it's more people out there trying to make people feel shitty to make money than there is trying to make people feel good. So people who actually make people feel
Mm-hmm.
good in a way, they get that back. You get what I'm saying? That's I feel like that's the law of attraction. That's the karma shit. And it's kind of like the reason I
Yeah.
asked the law of attraction question is kind of because I've been sometimes I think like it's certain like ideologies and philosophies they have given us at an early age that's given to destroy us, and it's like watered down versions of actual shit that like you can study it, but it's gonna take you like 15 years to actually understand that shit. But our generation,
Mm.
we like instant gratification. You get what I'm saying? Like 10
Yeah.
fucking 5 minute fucking.
Definitely.
That's what we like doing with our brain. So it's like
Yeah.
that shit funny. It's fine. It's fun being raised up in this point in time, bro. Like, and I enjoy that shit personally, bro. But
Yeah.
it's
Definitely. It's a lot of just like instant gratification and just things happen around you where you can just instantly get this and instantly get that and stuff like that versus having to actually put in like the time and effort to do stuff and to get things. And sometimes you'll see people like that who just get shit just like that, or
on the surface.
um versus somebody who just like actually got to take their time and grind and get that shit or whatever like that. Maybe they was born into it, maybe they wasn't. maybe it didn't even take them that long to figure the shit out. You know, you got people that they went to college for like 5, 6 years or something like that. Like they definitely was grinding down every single day versus somebody who was just like, you know what, fuck college. I'm gonna start, learning how to do such and such. It's gonna be my new trade, and then I'm gonna just go from there. Boom. And then they get there a lot faster and like, you know what, I didn't have to stress myself out because I, actually played around with it rather than, somebody who had to actually go through school and, a traditional way of doing stuff. And like with that whole information that people be giving, like nowadays they like back in like 2000, the early 2000s, uh, the 90s, a lot of people had to really, if you wanted the information, yes, it's going to the library. Yes, it's going to, you know, uh, look up some, use researching things. Use you ain't like have all the internet and your phone and stuff like that. You really had to get down and like really grind for this stuff. Go out to different places and meet people, talk to them, so on and so forth, and really conversate. I'm just trying to get to figure out, these things rather than now. Like I could look up a phrase, a word, whatever, and it'll come up in seconds, and I can know it just like that. And like that's the thing that's amazing about this is that I don't have to go out my way to look for so many different things. It's right there in front of me. I can go ahead and look up stuff um versus the other way, or the fact that there's information out here where like they'll give you this occult information, this hidden information, and then it kind of, like you saying, kind of fuck you up in the mind because like you weren't prepared for it, like some sort of master yogi or Sufi or whoever, somebody who actually mastered the stuff and taught you it. No, they just said, okay, well, this is that, this is this the law of this and that, or whatever like that. And now you kind of fucked up in the brain later on because you didn't do it right, or you end up doing some crazy shit like this. I don't know if you heard about it. Probably not. I don't know. I can't say probably not because you probably did. You ever heard of Three Kings on Reddit?
Nah.
Okay, so
I
Three
heard the Three
Kings,
Kings. I heard of the story
yeah,
of some keep. Oh, but yeah, go.
okay. But so Three Kings is this crazy ass subreddit where they got like people that make rituals and like they play these rituals like it's a game. And so like they got different rituals where uh you wait at a certain time, like 3 a.m. in the morning, and you open up the door, close it, knock on the door, open it, close it, and then repeat somebody's name or whatever like that. And you got to keep your candle on all night, or so, some sort of entity will grab you and things like that. So they got all these different crazy ass ritual games out here that people can just go ahead and play, and that then you get these different posts from people saying you know I keep getting this crazy feeling, every time I enter my room, or every time this and that happens, that I'm not feeling okay, or they're having some sort of mental instability because they start messing with forces they don't understand. And so they put this stuff out here just for you to just they know you're going to mess with it. They know that certain people are going to try and play around with it just to kind of fuck you up, and keep people away from these types of, you know, this world of thought basically. And that's where this stuff can go wrong. Like as far as like the law of attraction is something going wrong, I could feel like in a way if you're not grounded, if you're not realistic about yourself, and you just say, okay, I'm gonna use the law of attraction right now. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. Sometimes it works for people. You could quit your job and for several years be like, you know what, law of attraction right there. I'm gonna just do the damn thing. Something may happen. In other cases, you might be struggling for the longest time and wishing you never quit your job. You know, so it's times like that where it's just like they give you things out and it's not actually fruitful for you. Or there's times where,
Yeah.
it is actually fruitful and you actually do the work and necessary and had a necessary time to actually spend making sure that you got your own system down where you can do this stuff yourself without getting fucked up in the head and start hearing voices and shit like